Well, we'll just have to see if that's the case. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to hold my breath on that, because I am notoriously a horrible judge of character on these things, as
I
we
am
already
too,
just
brother.
went through. I really hope that Cenk or Ana or both, they talk to Sam Cedar, or they talk to
Yeah, I would love that.
John Iadarola and Francesca Fiorentini, because it really does. They seem to think, as you sort of pointed out, that anybody who disagrees with them on certain issues, it truly is just a grifter and they're a liar. And, whether it's crime issues or trans issues, they seem to think like everybody who's on the left genuinely loves crime, right? This is something I've heard from them. I'd be willing to have the conversation with them. But yeah, it's this idea. Oh, this is what Cenk's been going around saying now. Like, when we disagree, let's disagree. And then let's go have a beer after. And then where we agree, let's unite. This is like his big thing that he's going around saying now. And it's like, look, I understand that, but it gets squirrely when you say that like PBD's an honest actor or Tim Pool's an honest actor. You could have a conversation with them, but you can't have a conversation with Sam Cedar, right?
Kyle has decided to, not make enemies where he doesn't need to. And also I think he, frankly has personal friendships there. So it's not the path that we would have taken. I think it makes sense for Kyle. I also think that Mike is so gingerly when he sets it up for Kyle, but he also is so like, I want you to answer this. I want you to talk about Cenk and Ana. I don't want you to talk about Joe Rogan. I don't want you to talk about independent media that's doing all these things that, Cenk and Ana are also doing at TYT, right? I want you to specifically mention them, but he does it in a way where he's like, I don't want you to bash them, but I'm just going to tell you a bunch of shit about them really quickly in a condensed fashion that deserves to be shit talked. Yep. And so Kyle, I think, both being true to himself and not refusing to answer the question, but also I wouldn't necessarily say he's taken the gloves all the way off. I think we'll hear more from Kyle, but he's trying not to create an unhinged response from Cenk and Ana, I think is something that we have to all understand when we watch this.
I think that's true. I think he wants to avoid that. As you brought up the other day, it's right around the holidays. He's probably more interested in spending time with his family than beefing online with Cenk and Ana, right? I mean, who can blame the guy? So I think that's definitely a big part of it. And I also hear, Zach, there might be a shout out to the Vanguard in this clip.
The gutter guard?
Who knows?
The sewer rat guard?
Who knows?
Us? The children of trash? Maybe. Let's plow right into it. Lord knows I love nothing more than a shout out.
Yep, absolutely. And I think you're also right when it comes to Kyle, that what's really going on here is that he's still holding out hope. He's still holding out a hope and a prayer for a TYT redemption arc, or for Cenk and Ana to come back to the light, realize what they've done, and course correct at the last minute. I think there's probably about a 1% to 2% chance of that happening at this point, unfortunately. But shout out to Kyle for at least holding on to some level of optimism, I guess, that does occur.
Yep. Let's hear from these two fellas, both big friends of the show.
So on the subject of independent media, I'm dying to know your thoughts on TYT, Ana Kasparian. So I'm not going to put you in a place where you have to attack them. But from my perspective, I feel like it's sad to see this, because we've all been in the space for a while, and we've seen this 100 times. Dave Rubin, Jimmy Dore, what's his name? Russell Brand, where little by little you start to, you pick one or two issues and then you start buddying up with the right. And I see this with TYT and Ana Kasparian, and I'm curious what your thoughts on that are.
Before I answer that, I'm curious your thoughts on, do you think it's going to go fully in that direction? Like, do you think it's genuinely going to end up like a Jimmy Dore or a Dave Rubin?
Yes, I do. If you asked me this a year ago, I would say probably not. I was in that position where you were in, probably with like Joe Rogan, where it's like, no, I think that you should try to reach these people. I think that maybe there's just a genuine agreement. But to me, with time, it's become apparent that like both Cenk and Ana, they just don't want to listen to good faith criticism. And, we all kind of like talked about this in different ways, like on Leftist Mafia, for example. And what really struck me is how, they just disregarded the arguments that we made. It was not in bad faith, even though they don't want to, acknowledge that. It wasn't in bad faith, but they said it was in bad faith. And for me, I think that moment that really like clicked with me, like, no, it's over, was when they went after Emma Vigeland, because Emma Vigeland, they know her more than they know us. I was part of TYT Network. You were part of TYT Network, but we didn't have that close relationship. I never was at TYT
And that's
studio.
a good point, too. I think I mentioned something similar on our stream yesterday, which was that was a final straw for a lot of people in their audience. The 1-2 punch of Mondale Robinson leaving the network, telling people to unsubscribe on the way out, and then Ana turning around and viciously smearing her former colleague, Emma Vigeland, her former friend, Emma Vigeland, just in a disgusting way, refusing to engage with any of Emma's actual criticism, but instead opting just to smear this woman behind her back and take her out of context. And like I said, a totally disgusting way. And why was this the last straw, Zach? Because, I mean, can you think of two people that are less bad faith than Emma Vigeland and Mondale Robinson? I mean, come on. You can't paint these people as bad faith actors. Emma Vigeland, Mondale Robinson. Again, say whatever you want about us. I don't really care. We're a little bit more new to the scene. We're not established in this scene like those two people are. But those folks are, they've demonstrated their credibility. They've demonstrated their integrity. It's not really up for debate.
Yeah, 100%. And this is true, not just to people like us, not just listeners, right? But this has been something that has taken people aback throughout the entire media scene. People who the Young Turks kind of need to support them, right? Gavin and I, we don't consider ourselves journalists. We like to practice some journalistic ethics. So I'm not going to tell you guys exactly who reached out to us, but there are people with millions of subscribers, not Mike or Kyle, but they reacted to that and they were like, hey guys, we don't get into the mud and gutter like this, but we're absolutely appalled by the way that Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur are treating Emma Vigeland. And thank you for not letting it fly, because it is abhorrent and it is absolute media malpractice what they're doing over there. And they don't feel like it's compatible with their brand to speak out. And they don't feel like it's compatible with what they've promised their audience they're going to devote their hard news shows to doing. But there are multiple individuals with huge platforms that are like, this is absolutely appalling and we don't stand for it either. So I think that we've all been awoken that it's going to be a new low for the Young Turks in the post, calling out Emma Vigeland era.
Mm-hmm.
You were only there a couple of times. So there was that degree of separation between us. But just to see them disregard the criticisms of the left. I mean, we all criticize each other. You and I have had debates in DMs on Twitter about fucking specific healthcare bills and shit like that. But we never I never thought, oh, Kyle's a fucking grifter. And I don't think you thought the same about me. It was just disagreements that we were hashing out. And even I said something about Wolfpack on my show, and Cenk had reached out to me privately and said, hey, the people at Wolfpack think that you got this wrong. And so I'm like, oh shit, I don't remember what it was in particular, but I brought on one of the directors of Wolfpack
I
on
bet
my
Mike
show to
got it
correct
right.
the record and talk about Wolfpack.
He probably wasn't even wrong
And it's
about it.
it's one of those things where we're all gonna eat shit. We're human beings. We don't have massive, production crews. We kind of just get on camera and we say what we think. And so there are gonna be times where we trip on our own dicks times, and our peers are the best people to hold us accountable. If some random YouTube comment says, hey Mike, fuck you, you said this, you're a terrible person, I'm going to disregard that. But if Kyle reaches out to me and says, hey, Mike, I think that you really messed up here, that's when I'm going to think, oh, okay, well, if Kyle's saying this, he's been doing this for a long time. I respect him. He respects me. So that, to me, is why I think TYT might actually just be straight up gone. Because they've tuned out all of the people that were closest to them, that respected them, that they respected. And now it's just right-wingers, Glenn Beck, PBD. And it's not a bad thing to go on these shows at all. Going on Temple and whatnot, but it's what you do when you're on these shows, right? You were on PBD and you criticized them, you challenged them.
Yeah, the whole thing was a debate. The whole thing was a debate.
The entire fucking thing was a debate. Mm-hmm. And this was the same criticism that we had with Jimmy Dore when he started going on Tucker Carlson. I don't care that you go on Tucker Carlson. I'm not trying to police where you go. You're a grown man. But if I were on Tucker Carlson, I'm going to speak truth to power. I'm going to criticize him for the white supremacy that he's espousing. And I don't see that. I see them going on these shows, attacking the left. And to me, it's okay, you know what? Maybe 5 years ago, I would still be more charitable. A year ago, I'd be more charitable. But I feel like we've seen this show so many times. It's a rerun. And I actually think they're less subtle. I think Ana is less subtle than Dave Rubin's grift at this point in time.
It's almost like they had kind of the opposite reaction as me. So in 2016, it looked to me like they were fully in resistance mode, where it was man, we're going to fight on everything. We're going to fight tooth and nail on everything. Fuck Trump in every imaginable way, even to the point where, there were some areas where I disagree with them on Russiagate type stuff. I was
And this is why it's very surprising the direction they've decided to go. And this is why I feel so confident calling it calculated pivot for financial gain, right? This is why I feel so comfortable calling it a grift, because when the money was in the resistance, when the money was in the Women's March, when the money was in the Pink Pussy Hats, when the money was in Russiagate, when the money was in all of that, they went right into it. They did not continue to hold the line for Bernie Sanders. Really, they kind of gave some, oh yeah, we're going to talk about that, or oh, we're going to kind of talk about that. But for the most part, they just went hook, line, and sinker. We're going to attack Trump, which is fine. That's allowed. Donald Trump was awful. You could make content every single day about horrible decisions that he was making in office. No problem over here. But then to go from that being the identity of your network, to have all of these new viewers who found you in 2017, right? Say, oh, okay, why are you now on the complete opposite side of the aisle when there's no new information that's emerged to make you think that Trump is an ounce more genuine, and there's actually a ton of data to suggest he'll be more brazen and lawless in a second term.
Yep.
Yeah, same.
I don't agree with these particular criticisms that they're making, but it seemed like they were in full-on resistance mode, and they maintained that all the way up, seemingly until recently. And then the mindset. So in the same way as I was trying to find bridges or areas of agreement from 2016 on, and then eventually I realized, shit, this didn't work, and I flipped, and now I'm being super aggressive, and I'm the one that's resisting. And for them, it was resist, resist, resist. And then just recently, it's almost like they just got tired of doing the we're in the resistance, we're going to fight everything. And now you hear Cenk's big thing is we got to unite the populist right and the populist left. And here's this area and that area where we can agree. But what I would say to Cenk in reaction to that is it's not they're completely and utterly full of shit. Every single one of them. That's even and God bless Bernie. I love him. I don't think Bernie's a sellout by any stretch of the imagination, but his strategy on this has been I agree with Trump that we should cap credit card interest rates at 10%. And I agree with Elon Musk and Doge that we need to cut the Pentagon. And he's putting that out there. But here's the thing, Bernie. They're not going to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. They're not going to cut the Pentagon. And then when they don't do those things, all of those MAGA accounts are going to pretend like they never supported capping credit card interest rates at 10%. They're going to say they never supported cutting the Pentagon, and they're going to go wherever Trump wants them to go, because MAGA is effectively a cult. And so what I would say to Bernie is, I know where your heart is. I know you're trying to do what you think is the right thing and get them in a gotcha and hypocrisy burn them.
And with Bernie, by the way, I would say that it's even more defensible than it is with Cenk and Ana. I disagree with Bernie, and I think that ultimately Kyle is correct about that. But I think Bernie is someone that is in the halls of power. He literally is a senator. If anyone's going to have a prayer of influencing a future administration, it would be a senator, it would be someone in power, not freaking Cenk Uygur. I mean, it's just ridiculous for Cenk to disguise what he's doing as activism in order to influence the people in power, when of course that's a total farce. With Bernie, again, I disagree with that, and I think that Kyle's right, but I think it's still at least a little bit more respectable. It's not just like a right-wing grift being disguised as something else. I do think Bernie's actually genuine.
They were lying, etc., but they're immune to the hypocrisy burns. And so the real strategy is to upfront say, look, these people are full of shit. They're full of shit. They don't mean a goddamn word of what they say. And I will put in the same category, I'd put, the PBDs of the world and the Tim Pools of the world and the Joe Rogans of the world. Do you think Rogan, when Trump starts doing objectively horrible shit, do you think Rogan is going to be on his show man, I really disagree with this, like he did back in the day? Remember when the child separation policy was happening, and Rogan had on Duncan Trussell, and he went on a pro-immigrant rant where he was saying, yeah. And do you think that's going to happen this time around? No. He endorsed the guy who said he wants to do a mass deportation. And if Trump does do a mass deportation, Rogan's either going to say nothing about it.
I actually do think there's a possibility that Rogan would say something about it, but he would take absolutely zero accountability for manufacturing consent for whatever horrible things Donald Trump does, right? Couldn't you see that? Donald Trump starts doing some really authoritarian shit, and then Joe's like, I don't think I'm cool with that. As if it wasn't obvious that that's what Trump was going to do from the very beginning, as articulated by people such as Kyle Kulinski. You know what I'm saying? Couldn't you kind of see that?
100%. And here's what he'll do. He'll be like, the Democrats put us in such a horrible place. They wanted to nominate that lunatic Tim Walz. The guy lied about his military service. How could you vote for somebody who lies?
Yo.
A liar. You're going to vote for a guy after he just lied to you? I mean, we had to vote for Donald Trump, the ultimate truth teller. I mean, guys, they had nominated a liar. Oh, it was the Democrats' fault. I never wanted this. I've always just been team people. I love people.
Right.
That's what he always goes back to. He's like, I'm team people, guys, wherever people are. It's like, no, you're not. You're actually team Joe Rogan.
Or just defend it, right? And so I think that's the point, is like, as we've been saying, there are way more allies who are liberals or who are just independents than there are the populist right. I'm of the belief at this point, the populist right is fake. It's not real.
Yep.
They will flip on a dime to go where Trump wants them to go. And by the way, I know I'm right about this because, again, we have the first 4 years. I mean, already Trump has axed Lena Khan. Lena Khan was like the example of, oh, if they mean this and they're actually going to be populist, they will keep Lena Khan at the FTC. And they said, oh, J.D. Vance had said some kind words about Lena Khan. Maybe Trump will keep Lena Khan. And then we learned just last week, he's not keeping her. He's replacing Lena Khan with somebody who says, I want to stop the FTC's war on big business. So how many times do they have to fail this test before we call it for what it is? J.D. Vance pretends like he's a populist. He's not even in favor of raising the minimum wage. He dodged a question on that during the campaign. He's not even in favor of the PRO Act. He said he supports the $6,000 child tax credit, and he didn't show up for the vote on the $6,000 child tax credit, right? So it's just, I'm hoping.
And guys, I don't know how many folks we have in our audience left who are still susceptible to the whole like, oh, you know what? Like the right wingers, they just really are the new populists. But Kyle just did an impeccable job shredding all of that. There were a lot of accounts, kind of dumbasses, that were like, oh, you know, Matt Gaetz and J.D. Vance, they really like Lena Khan, guys. They actually really want to rein in monopoly. And it's like, no, they don't, dude. They are going to serve the Republican Party and the Republican Party big business donors. Okay, the old guard, the geriatric, decrepit wing of society with the old racist money. That is who they are going to serve, the Waltons of the world. And there's no way to argue it anymore. We even came out on this very show and we said, yeah, you're right. Trump's Secretary of Labor is a good pick. She has a strong record, and she's not going to be a disaster, even though she's a Republican. I think she's a representative from Oregon. She's not MAGA coded. You know, she does have a good union rating. However, what did we say? He's going to fire Lena Khan, and he's going to gut the NLRB, and he's going to make it so that he has the optics of a strong union presidency because he'll point his Secretary of Labor, and then she's going to have no teeth to do anything at all. And she's not going to support the, you know, striking Starbucks workers because Trump's base hates Starbucks workers because they think that they're blue-haired liberals.
Yep. And also, as Kyle pointed out, the labor secretary is not even actually that good. Like, she voted for the PRO Act, which is based, obviously. But then I think otherwise only voted with unions 10% of the time.
Oh.
That was according to, I believe, Kyle Kulinski. So sorry to rain on everyone's parade, but even that pick, despite being endorsed by Sean O'Brien, it's probably just like, what, 10% less shitty than whoever else Trump would have picked.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you're right. I mean, Sean O'Brien, I've had criticisms of, but I did see that the Teamsters gave her an A rating, which is what I was kind of going off of.
I think it's mostly because of the PRO Act, though, and because she was one of the only people that voted for it, which you can't take away from her. That is very important.
Hoping, like I think a lot of people are, for just when something really bad happens, I'm hoping that there's some sort of an about face, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that TYT goes, hey, they didn't do the thing that I thought they might do, so now I'm on the warpath against them too. So I hope that that's the case. But we'll just have to see if that's the case. And I don't know. I don't know if I want to hold my breath on that because I am notoriously a horrible judge of character on these things, as we already just went through. Like we just discussed the Rogan thing. I gave him credit for way too long. For Jimmy Dore, I gave him credit for way too long. For all these people. But what I would say is this: I really hope that that Cenk or Ana, or both, they talk to Sam Cedar or they talk to
I would love that.
John Iadarola and Francesca Fiorentini, because it really does. They seem to think, as you sort of pointed out, that...
Did Kyle watch that clip on the Vanguard before he chatted with Mike? Who knows?
That anybody who disagrees with them on certain issues, it truly is just a grifter and they're a liar. And, you know, whether it's crime issues or trans issues, they seem to think like everybody who's on the left genuinely loves crime, right? I've heard this is something I've heard from them. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
No, Kyle, they only love it when it happens to white people.
I want them to talk to somebody who can rep that counter argument, who they respect enough to give them the space to make the argument, right? And I don't know if they'll do that. I'd be willing to have the conversation with them.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean,
Kyle Kulinski throwing the gauntlet down, challenging Cenk Uygur to a one-on-one debate, WWE SmackDown style. Gavin and I would be willing to fly into the Poly Market studio on our own dime to give ringside analysis. We are willing to be impartial parties.
Yep, yet another bad faith progressive has just challenged Cenk Uygur to a debate. Who knows if he'll take up on it? Probably not, considering how bad faith Kyle Kulinski clearly is out here publicly betraying Cenk and Ana, being disloyal to his friends. Wow, can you believe it, Zach?
Shameful. It's
Disgusting.
just a money-grubbing whore Kyle has become.
Yep.
I would have no problem having that conversation with him.
Yeah,
but
because the bridge is burnt for a lot of folks. Like it's burnt between, you know, myself and them. But I mean, like, at least they could speak to Francesca or John or you. Because like, if you think that we're bad faith, that's fine. Because I've taken the gloves off. Like I'm kind of past the whole maybe we can save them. I can fix them. I don't believe that. But for the people who are still on good terms with him, I think that the fact that he's not having that conversation, and Francesca actually just said, I was watching the Vanguard, and they're playing a clip of Francesca where she tried to have a conversation between them and John, and Cenk denied it.
And I just want to let everybody know, shout out to Mike because he watches our show. Mike's actually been a long time. I don't know if role model is the way to put it, but Mike and Kyle
inspiration
have always been really kind to us, and they've always, you know, encouraged us to stay on the right path. When we were taking a real beating, going to war with Jimmy Dore, Mike was like, "Don't worry, guys, you guys will come out on the right side of that. Jimmy Dore's an asshole," you know, and just that kind of thing here. Love to see him going scorched earth.
So the fact that they're not doing that is so frustrating to me.
It's this idea. Oh, this is what Cenk's been going around saying now. Like, when we disagree, let's disagree, and then let's like go have a beer after, and then where we agree, let's unite. This is like his big thing that he's going around saying now, and it's like, look, I understand that, but it gets squirrely when you say that like PBD's an honest actor or Tim Pool's an honest actor. You could have a conversation with them, but you can't have a conversation with Sam Cedar, right?
Right.
So,
that's what is.
I mean, that's
so
just seems,
frustrating.
And you know, Cenk had Hassan. Cenk and Hassan did that thing on Thanksgiving, and I don't know. It just seemed like it was sort of like hitting a brick wall a little bit, right? Like it seems like there's an impasse, and I think the point is.
Yeah, and that's such a great point. I think what really gives away the game is exactly what Kyle Kulinski just explained. This only goes one way for Cenk. He's not interested in having these conversations with anyone to his left. And when he does have these conversations with people to his left, like his nephew Hassan, or when our friend of the show Olay went on about a year ago, he always gets super aggressive and like in his feelings, emotional. He can never just hold it together, which is a shame because I do actually think there's an appetite out there for a commentator like Cenk Uygur to field conversations and debates with people of all different ideologies. I mean, look at a guy like freaking Joe Rogan. Look at a guy like Theo Von. A big part of those folks' appeal is at least the perception that they're open-minded and that they're willing to talk to anybody, right? You hear this propaganda all the time as it relates to Joe Rogan, right? Oh, he'll talk to anyone. You know, he'll be nice to anyone, right? And I do think that a lot of people like would sort of be able to stomach or tolerate that with Cenk if he really wanted to fill that role and be like, yeah, I'll just entertain any perspective. I'm not going to be as ideological going forward. I just want to talk to anyone and everyone. There maybe could be space for that. There could be room for that. Obviously, there would be some people that would be pissed off, but Cenk won't even commit to that. He'll only entertain crazy right-wingers at this point, like obviously his co-host Ana, but also PBD, Tim Pool, Glenn Beck, all these morons, and then turns his nose up at Sam Cedar, smears Emma Vigeland, acts like his own nephew Hassan is some crazy woke leftist when he's actually a super popular influencer that's speaking to tons and tons of the exact sort of demographics that the left needs to reach. It's crazy, right? But don't you think that that's a big issue for a lot of people? It's not so much that Cenk is willing to talk to right-wingers. I don't care about that as long as you debate them and are at least remotely adversarial. But it's that he's not even willing to debate the disagreements he has with people to his left. It's very weird.
100%. I think Mike made a great point when he talked about the first time Jimmy went on Fox News. We were all like, you know what? If he goes on there and he clobbers Tucker Carlson on his own show, then that'll be badass. It'll be awesome. I've seen Kyle Kulinski go on Fox News before. They asked him about like Cory Bush's comments on like the top marginal tax rate one time and never invited him back on after that, right? Because he absolutely clobbered him. I'm like, oh, you go on there and do that, totally fine. When you go on there and you kiss his ass and you validate all of his talking points and you make everybody in your audience think he's some legitimate outsider instead of a talking piece for the Murdoch empire, which he 100% was during his entire tenure at Fox News, you're doing the wrong work. And Gavin, we've talked about this a lot. Cenk understood how to be an antagonist all of 8 weeks ago. He was one of, if not the single most frequent guest on the Piers Morgan panel debate show. Piers Morgan was the #1 growing show on YouTube in the build up to the 2024 election.
Might still be.
Yeah, exactly. He might still be, because he understood that people wanted to see people hash it out, right? They wanted to have somebody on this side of the ideological spectrum and then somebody on this side of the ideological spectrum, right? Go head to head. And Cenk would go in there and he would lock horns and he would be an unabashed, proud progressive when it came to a subject like Israel, when it came to a subject like Donald Trump being a fascist, right? And then all of a sudden he learned the wrong lesson. The right lesson would be, oh, I want to start recreating this on the Young Turks. I want to start having these conversations among leftists. I want to make sure that we have some right-wingers debating right-wingers, but shouldn't we also do panels like this where more establishment Democrats debate their POV against more radical fringe leftists? Couldn't we recreate this apparatus in the studio at the Young Turks, have some people call in? Oh, if you're around Los Angeles, come into the studio. Cenk Uygur could have totally eaten Pierce's lunch with the 6 million subs and put out a product that people wanted to see. Instead, he got the exact wrong idea, which is, oh, all of the people that I'm seeing on this debate panel with me, they're all Republicans who have way bigger audiences than I do. Maybe I should start calling out wokeness. Maybe I should abandon the brand that I've built.
Yeah, and not just the people on the panels, but Piers Morgan himself, who loves to do this. I'm a disaffected liberal shtick, but I've just been left behind by this wokeness. I don't relate at all to it. I think it's preposterous. This woke Democrats, they've left me. That's his whole fucking shtick. So yeah, maybe that did rub off on Cenk in addition to some of the odious people on the panel with him.
100%. But let's keep watching.
Sort of like hitting a brick wall a little bit, right? Like it seems like there's an impasse. And I think the point is, like, if all of your passion comes out and you get really like fiery and riled up, just when it's those little areas of disagreement with the left, I think that's why a lot of people are like, I don't know if I like this, because that sort of like fiery anger and passion where like you're really about it. In a moment like this, all of that anger really should be targeted at the right, who Trump just won the White House. They got the Senate, they got the House. This whole Doge thing is just literal billionaire robber barons who are going to loot the treasury and cut your grandma's Social Security and Medicare. And it's like, we really do need to be harping away on this and going after these people, because it's about to get really ugly really, really quickly. And we really need both basically anybody who's anywhere left of center to unite and all be in unison and all hammer away. This was the brilliance of Fox News and the right-wing media.
And I think this is specifically underscored recently, Zach, something I've paid a little bit of attention to. I probably should have paid more attention to it, honestly, and talked about it more on the show. But what happened in South Korea when this asshole fucking fascist president tries to declare martial law, and then thank fucking God the people in fucking South Korea took the shit seriously and said, no, actually, that's not going to happen. We're here to resist you. We're here to take this seriously. That's what we need to be getting ready for in this fucking country, in America. Because, yeah, we can count on Trump pulling some fascist shit. I don't know if he's going to get away with it, guys. He didn't last time, but there's a much better chance he will get away with it than last time. That means every serious person in this fucking country that gives a shit about democracy, needs to stand together and actually take it seriously. As Kyle Kulinski said, we need to follow the South Korean playbook and be prepared for this. It's not that hard to figure out. And luckily, there are many examples of serious people in modern day democracies standing together and defeating authoritarian bullshit like we just saw in South Korea. But they absolutely will win if we are not united in our resistance and if we're not taking this fucking threat seriously. And that's what pisses me off more than anything about Cenk and Ana and their posture towards MAGA this time around, as articulated brilliantly by Kyle Kulinski. He's like, imagine being mad at the left right now as we see everything going down, as we see all of this, fascism and authoritarianism taking hold in our country, and you're mad at the powerless resistance, you're mad at the rebel forces. The fuck is wrong with you?
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there.